You've dreamed of it. Retirement. Those golden years, and you've done the numbers and you realize, well, if I'm going to maintain my lifestyle, I'm going to need around $15,000 every month in order to do so. But you look at the traditional retirement advice and how much it says you'll need, and it leaves you wondering, am I even going to be able to do this? Is it realistic? Am I going to need to work the rest of my years in order to afford this lifestyle? Well, in today's video, we're going to show you an actual example, a case study, if you will, of a fictional couple who walks through this scenario that actually takes a significant amount less than most people think and works together to create a true symphony of financial harmony between differing income streams and different levers that you can pull in your retirement to create a $15,000 per month stream of income without having to work forever and ever. So if you're interested in learning how, and you'd like to see how it might be possible with even less than you might have imagined, then listen in and we'll talk a little bit more about how exactly we make that happen. Hi, I'm John Norberg, and welcome to the Financial Prof series. So spending $15,000 a month in retirement sounds pretty great, doesn't it? Especially when you consider that according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American only spends around $5,000 per month. So if you're able to swing it such that your portfolio and income streams are getting you $15,000, you're well above average. And maybe that was you in school, the kid who was always above average, not only in school, but building a career and maybe building your own business. But as you stare down retirement, you've got questions. What about this lifestyle I want to live? How do I make that amount, that 15K per month I've figured out I need, actually happen? And what about Social Security? Doesn't that factor in somewhere? And taxation, that's going to be part of this whole picture, right? Well, listen in as we discuss some of these questions. And let's dive right on in. We're going to take a fictional couple, we'll call them Victor and Ilsa, and talk through exactly what they did in this scenario to make that happen. And we're going to start with the big one. The portfolio. We're not burying the lead here. Let's talk about how much a portfolio ought to be in order to afford $15,000 a month. Now, if you take the traditional retirement advice, that is the 4% rule, which we've talked about in numerous previous videos, you know that the safe withdrawal rate is 4%. So, easy math, if we're looking at a 4% withdrawal rate, we're looking at a portfolio of probably close to $4 million per year, especially once you factor in inflation. But we can actually make this happen with much less once we start bringing in the other pieces of the pie. So in this example, we're going to use a portfolio of $2 million, which, using the 4% rule, would actually get us maybe somewhere around $8,000 or so per month. However, if we use a different distribution method or a little bit more strategic in how we go about this, we could actually make this work, this $8,000 a month that we're going to pull from the portfolio in this strategic example, with less than $2 million. We could probably make this happen with around $1.7 million or so using a strategy like Guyton and Klinger's guardrails method, which is a popular alternative to the 4% rule. Now, we're not going to get into the weeds on exactly how this works, but let's assume that we're going to pull off around 5 to maybe 6% per year off of our portfolio. So we're going to assume a portfolio of around $1.7 million in that case. But in any event, whether you have $1.7 or $2 million, we're going to assume that that portfolio is producing $8,000 per month of the income that we need, right? So step number one is the portfolio. If we can pull 8K per month off of it, and that portfolio is probably somewhere between 1.7 and 2, that's going to be the lion's share. All right, so step number two, let's take a look at our guaranteed income streams. Now, Victor and Ilsa, realizing that they've saved enough to take off, again, around 8K per month from their portfolio, having consulted with their financial advisor, they know that's a good start. But that's not going to get them to the 15K that they need. So Victor and Ilsa realize that, being good, hardworking members of society for the last 35 years, that Victor, having done well in life, for a number of years, has paid into the Social Security system probably right around the top of that limit. So in retirement, presuming he waits till full retirement age, which right now is 67 for most individuals, he's going to get $4,000 per month. In fact, if he's actually at his max Social Security at full retirement age, he'll get $4,018 per month, as that is the biggest payment that you can get from Social Security here in 2025. Now, one of the benefits of Victor's Social Security is that it's also less taxable than ordinary income. Only 85% of that amount, of that $4,000 per month, is going to be considered taxable, right? Because Social Security is a little bit more favorable from a tax treatment standpoint. Okay, so now we have $4,000. where do we get the rest of our money? We're up to 12,000, 8 from the portfolio, and then 4 from Social Security. Well, this is where Ilsa comes into play. Now, Ilsa, let's just say, has been a great stay-at-home mom, raised a great big family, lots of good, young, productive members of society out there these days, but Ilsa doesn't have any work history. Well, because Ilsa is going to be around the same age as her husband, Victor, let's just say, she is going to be able to also claim not only half of that amount, so that's $2,000 in our scenario, but she's going to be able to do it right about the same time. So as long as they both wait until they're 67, they're going to be able to claim 4,000 for Victor and 2,000 for Ilsa. Again, assuming that they've made a good amount, or at least that Victor has, throughout most of his life, at least 35 years before retirement, because Social Security looks at the last 35 years of earnings history. Now, if that's not the case and you need to delay a little bit, let's say you want to make sure that you're waiting and getting some further Social Security out of that, because every year that you do delay, you're going to be able to bump that benefit by 8%. So in other words, if Victor waits another year in order to claim his Social Security, so from age 67 to now 68, he's a year into his benefit bump, which equates to approximately, well, not approximately, exactly 8% per year increase in benefit. In other words, Victor's going to be able to get an additional over $300, $320 to be exact, out of that proposition by waiting, sorry, $360 by waiting that additional year. Because every year you wait, again, your Social Security benefit goes up by 8% every year after that full retirement age. But again, let's just say that they did not want to wait, so Victor's going to go ahead and claim at age 67, and Ilsa's also going to claim the spousal benefit, which is half of his benefit. So Victor gets $4,000 per month, and Ilsa gets $2,000. Okay, now we're getting really close, because $8,000 from the portfolio plus $4,000 from Victor's Social Security and $2,000 from the Social Security spousal benefit that Ilsa gets brings us to $14,000. And we've been able to do this with only around $2 million in the portfolio, or maybe even a little less. Now, this is the third and final and key ingredient to making this scenario work, which is being willing to pick up a little bit of part-time hobby work, perhaps, in retirement. In other words, to do something income generating in retirement. And the fun part is, this is, again, where you get to use a lot of flexibility in how you want to craft it. The fun part is it can be a lot of different things. There are a lot of things out there that will generate some form of income and allow you to live the retirement of your dreams. So maybe Rick and Ilsa, seeing the great country that America is, decide to invest in owning a piece of it, and they get a rental property. And maybe after expenses, that rental property nets them $1,000 a month in income. That's awesome. $1,000 plus that $14,000 from the other sources gets us to our $15K in a month. Now, Victor and Ilsa are also going to be able to do a lot of other things besides just rental property. That's a pretty passive one, but maybe Victor's pretty handy. So he likes to stay involved in maintaining that property. But maybe he wants to hire a management company, and that'll probably eat into profits a little bit unless the rent is high enough. So maybe he does something else too to supplement that retirement income. And maybe Victor goes out and gets a job at the local Home Depot because he's a pretty handy guy and he likes working with his hands. So that allows him an opportunity to interact with similarly minded people while at the same time probably getting some kind of nice employee discount on those tools that he enjoys working with. Another example, this is from an actual client of mine, by the way. She went out and she started a travel agency, just single member company herself. She loves going overseas, particularly to the Italian region, and she is able to not only fulfill her love of travel and seeing those beautiful parts of the world, but also to bring people with her and share that joy with her, while at the same time being able to write off a number of expenses that she would probably already be spending because she likes traveling in retirement anyway, and making some kind of money on it, right? So if we can make something like that travel agency idea work and bring in $1,000 a month, there's the last 1,000 that we need. Or here's one of my favorite examples, my own father. My dad is a retired cop, and he was able to, after he retired, find a job as what we like to call a body snatcher. What he does is when someone passes away and they need somebody to actually go and get the body from wherever that person, God rest their soul, passed away, they call up my dad, and he works for a small company out where he lives in Minnesota, and basically goes around town when people die and he gets the call, picks up that body and brings it to the city morgue. And that's a job. It's a definite necessity in our society, but we don't really think about it very often. But that's an easy retirement job for my dad because he's used to seeing that kind of world. So it doesn't bother him at all. And it's one of those things that also keeps a memento mori mindset, which when you're in retirement, you do definitely want to be thinking about not only how you live, but how you want to die. Not to get too morbid there. Anyway, the idea is that you can work a number of different jobs, hopefully working in some kind of hobby, like Victor, again, working at the local Home Depot, to make it enjoyable. Make your time something that you enjoy doing. And it doesn't have to be only 1,000 a month, by the way. If you really enjoy doing it, perhaps you can push retirement back further, knowing that you've got something lined up or something that you're intending to do to generate that extra little bit of income, whether it be 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 a month. These are all very doable numbers based on that side gig. The key is to have fun with it because now that you're officially retired from your job, your time should be your own and you should be doing something that ideally you enjoy. Getting paid for it is the icing on the cake. So again, in our scenario, if Victor gets a $1,000 a month job at Home Depot and is able to work that for a while, that gets us to our $15,000 a month. Now the taxation piece comes into play a little bit, not only we mentioned with Social Security, but also in how you're distributing this income. So it's really easy theoretically to store up a bunch of income inside those IRAs, 401ks, whatever. But when it comes time to take it back out and distribute it to yourself again, that's where it gets a little bit sticky and tricky. So this is where working with a good financial advisor, hopefully Victor and Ilsa can come to a good strategy that might even bring that number down further. To live the same lifestyle from $15,000 that they want to generate, they might be able to utilize strategies like Roth conversions or qualified charitable distributions that they don't even have to think about because they're working with a good financial advisor to set this on autopilot so that it happens without them hardly even making another thought about it, and it's impacting their tax situation ideally for the better. So if all of this has you thinking about what your dreams in retirement are and how you can make $15,000 as well, then give us a ring or drop us a line, hit that contact button, and in the meantime, hit that like and subscribe, and we'll see you out there.